Okay, welcome back, commissioners. It's 10 o'clock. We're closing out our closed session for our labor discussion. We'll move on to our briefing with the Sheriff's Office and Undersheriff Adams when they are available.
Over here.
Great, good morning.
Good morning. So yeah, we said we'd come back with you with information about what was going on with the jail contract with the city, and then talk to you a little bit about the outsourcing. I'll talk to you about the jail contract as I've been in the meetings with Police Chief Beeson, and then I'll let Kevin talk about the outsourcing. So in our conversations with Chief Beeson, they've made it abundantly clear to us that they plan on doing outsourcing with Nisqually and want to change the nature of the contract with us. Currently they contract for 7 beds and they pay us right in the neighborhood of about $250K a year. And they want to change that contract to a per diem contract where they're paying us basically either a rate for holding them day by day, whatever they choose to bring to us that meets our booking standards, or to hold them briefly and we'll charge them a fee for doing the booking before they get transported up to Nisqually. So I would venture to guess, although we have absolutely no idea at this point, how much they can or would use us to briefly hold their prisoners before transport to Nisqually, that it will be a significant drop in the revenue that you would normally see from that contract. You have any questions on that portion?
Not for me yet, commissioners.
Sounds like it's going to be what it's going to be.
Yeah, well, we certainly don't have any control of what the city decides to do with their inmates, and they want to move them to Nisqually, which is okay. It'll provide us with some opportunities. We have completed a contract for a per diem rate for the city. We've ran that by Tim Whitehead to make sure that it meets our requirements for the county, and we'll be sending that over to the city for their review today.
I'm sure you're recouping our costs, so you know your money.
Oh yes, as far as the daily rate, Kevin's worked up the most recent daily rate to make sure that we're meeting that requirement.
Be interesting moving forward.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about some outsourcing options, and part of this will be we're dovetailing off what the city has already done with their work with Nisqually to establish a contract, the rates that they're going to be receiving for housing inmates there, and then some of the ways that we might utilize that in the future should that become an option.
Okay, so that we all know the plight that the sheriff's office and the county are in as far as staffing the jail. We're losing another one at the end of the year. Actually, he's put a resignation in, and with the lack of staffing, we can't fill the jail up with inmates, and so soon to be Sheriff Sperling and Undersheriff have asked me to try to figure out a way to still be able to arrest people that need to be arrested and incarcerate them in some way without putting them in the jail that we don't have enough staff to staff. So we have contacted Nisqually and inquired with them about a potential contract between Mason and Nisqually to house our excess prisoners. Our functional capacity in the jail right now with the staffing that we have is 60 people. And we would like to look at a plan that would include being able to arrest some people that for instance, like the detectives have their eyes on that have been victimizing people or victimizing homes and property in the community, and try to find a place to put them. Normally, we wouldn't take those people right now because they don't meet the booking criteria, and the booking criteria was set by the sheriff as a result of trying to control the jail population. So, so having an outsourcing contract would allow us to find a way or have a way to house these people and get them to the court processes. The outsourcing contract, I think that, what number did you come up with, Undersheriff? If we had 10 a day?
Yes, yep, 10 a day for, this is just a hypothetical situation, but Nisqually charges $130 per day. So you can factor that out for as many people as you decide that you want to. 10 a day for $130 a day is about just shy of 500 grand a year. That's if you use all 10 beds every day, all year long.
And how we propose our and this is still at a 30,000 foot level concept. And we want to make sure that we just don't send people into Nisqually and leave them there and, you know, rack up additional expenses. How we envision that concept working would be to twice a week, we would have scheduled transportation runs between here and Nisqually. And then our supervisors would look at the daily population in the jail and keep that population at or around 60, which is our functional capacity. And then any excess people we would send out to Nisqually, short-term, long-term, whatever it might be. But we want to monitor, we're just going to try to manage. It's going to be a constant changing inmate population. You know, if we come into a weekend and we see that we're at 57 and, you know, we want to clear some beds for the weekend to allow some room for some other arrests, we'll send 5 of them out to Nisqually on Friday. And then, you know, we look at it again on Tuesday and bring those people back if the jail population allows. So it's going to be a constant fluid changing process. And you know, we're all up to providing reports to the commission, you know, or to Mark or whatever about, you know, how many inmates we have out, where we're at, how much money we're spending, you know, how much we have left in the budget if you so choose to give us a budget. You know, we want to try to be the best stewards as we can of the dollars, but still provide some opportunities for us to, well, for the sheriff's office to try to hold some people accountable in this community that they haven't been able to in the last 4 or 5 years.
And obviously, if we increased our staffing, those number would go up accordingly.
Yeah, if I ever get back to having full staff, you know, we can go back up to having 80 people in jail again.
So commissioners, I'd recommend considering 2 things. One, even if the commission doesn't want to spend a dime on outsourcing, I would still recommend that we entertain a contract with Nisqually. It's a good hedge against an emergency situation over at the jail. If we need to get people out of there, whether it's a facilities crisis or something else, it gives us a relief valve to make sure that we have a place to put people immediately. And on the contingency of if we had a loss of a significant number of personnel, which would require us to come up with alternate plans, it would be very prudent, I think, for the county to have that contract. Whether or not you choose to put a dollar amount into outsourcing so that we could fully utilize the facility, that's a different conversation. But I'd ask that we entertain both those conversations.
And the other thing that I think the commission needs to know is that, you know, we're going to try to work with the city the best we can for transportation. Carol has made it pretty clear to us that, you know, they want a partnership with us in some way to try to reduce the expenses. And I don't know how that's going to look, but they're really wanting to work with us about this. And, you know, and their objective is to clean up the homeless problem downtown pretty much. And they just don't have any way to do that in our jail. So, and I don't know, I saw UNESCO was part of the meeting here, last meeting, but I don't know if it's still on or not, but I want to speak on behalf of them.
Great. Commissioner Owen?
Yes, so first of all, we definitely, in my opinion, we definitely need to be at least entertaining the contract to see what it looks like, to help set up the parameters for many different reasons, many different scenarios. The idea of anything with the city we might want to consider doing it backwards compared to how they've always done it. Perhaps if we piggyback on them to use their people, we let them bill us, and this way we don't have the daily that we have to pay for. That would be on them. I do want to point out that if with what we're talking about for the commission, if we were to do the outsourcing and at that contract of 10, and we have the lack of revenue from the city, we're looking at a hit on the budget of $750,000. I also would like to remind all of us, though, somewhere along the line, there is money there because we have unexpended budget authority under wages that could be used, and the commission could use to shift that for if this would be considered maintenance and operation. I'm not sure how we would consider it, but that money's, we can't lose sight of that because it's still in there, and if it's not being expended, that should be a lot by now because of how many. But also understanding that Nisqually is fully staffed. Is there for this is for the chief and for Mark? Could you please look at seeing what they're offering, what their contracts, if they have a contract with their employees, what that looks like, so that we can look at our options for what we're doing, how they're getting it, and what we can do to improve our numbers or whatever it is that may put us in the same position. I would love to be the one county in the state that is fully staffed.
Me too.
I know you would, Chief. So if you don't mind looking at that and seeing what we can pull together, and let's just sit down and talk about it and look at those options. It's, if somebody's doing it, copy and paste.
Yeah, we can definitely look into see if we can get a copy of that contract from them. Yeah, you made some good points in there, Commissioner. One thing I'd like to jump on there is I use the number of 10 inmates a day just as a general number for doing math. It would not be our intent to try and keep it at 10 necessarily. Our intent would be, the nice thing about Nisqually is that you can put them in and take them out on a day-by-day basis. So if we had a influx of folks that we needed to send the few extra up there for a few days while we manage our population, and then we can bring them back to save the county money based on our 2-time-a-week run, we would certainly be doing that. It wouldn't be a case of just pigeonholing 10 up there and costing the county all as much as you allow us to expend. Our goal is to try and fully utilize the functional capacity of the jail so that we don't have to try and maintain a reserve of space in case there's an influx, and be able to take people up and bring them back from Nisqually in such a way that we can maximize that space, but still be fiscally responsible for the county.
I know transportation is an issue, but Forks was always the least. Did they have availability for other numbers? And do we know what that cost would be if we did?
We can certainly inquire with them. We wanted to have this conversation with you to find out what the thoughts of the commission were on the idea before we fully researched it. But we had all the information from Nisqually based on the work that the city had already done. That's why we were using that as just kind of a baseline. Yeah. We could certainly check into that.
Now, on that, then, did the city negotiate a certain number? Do you know?
Well, yeah. So basically, what Nisqually does is, my understanding is they have a base rate, which is for the easiest to manage inmate of, I don't remember what it was, about $90 or something, and then they have a rate for the worst inmate that they have to manage up in the mid hundreds range. And what they do is they split the difference and charge one fee for all types of inmates regardless, and they figure it works out in the end. So regardless of need, regardless of the management level, they charge $130 a day, and that's how they keep it simple, I guess.
And it's not a guaranteed bed contract like we had. It's just a per diem contract.
Mm-hmm. Are we capable, if it was separated in level of offender, outside of the courts and stuff, are we capable of determining who those are?
Who goes to the outsourcing?
Well, yeah, if we were to separate the level of offender as was discussed. They have a lower level for this, and I know we're talking about a contract for all, but I'm thinking larger contract. You know, I understand they have a lot of space that needs to be filled. We may be able to negotiate something larger, and think it's the economy of scale. If we were able to separate, because I know I've been there and I know that they do separate their offenders.
Oh, yeah, we do too. And, but the problem is that the most of the inmates that we have in our jail now, well, about 21% of them are people that would require the higher rate.
Yes.
And the people who don't require the higher rate and the lower rate, the low minimum security people, they're the people who are working in our kitchen, they're working in the laundry room, they're on litter detail. You know, they're all the minimum security people that are easy to take care of. So I think that was your question, whether or not,
but
we could spend a little less on the lower risk inmate.
I think it was the undersheriff that had mentioned the idea of maybe going out and picking up more when we know we have these other things. I myself believe that the biggest problem we have is because if we're not arresting them, people don't feel like there's consequence.
Yep.
Getting these smaller things in consequence may have a value overall to the community. And if it's at a lower rate, we were to do something like that to give the opportunity for the sheriff. That's why I was asking, do you have the ability out there on the road to be able to make that determination? And that could be for a conversation to be had later. I just wanted you to think about that.
Yeah, no, we certainly have a lot of flexibility. They'll take whoever we take them. So we've talked about a whole bunch of different models and ideas of how to do it and how to do it in a fiscally responsible way. I mean, the one method we talked about was using it as a relief valve for our functional capacity, which is kind of what we presented here. Another idea we talked about was starting out with a higher number so that we could go out and get some of our worst offenders for vehicle thefts and burglaries and those type of things, and put a higher number in there right away, but then let the court system work through those before we put any more in. One, it would give us a good baseline of if we built a new facility, what that wave would look like at the beginning and how it would dissipate over time through the courts. And then two, it would give us the opportunity to go out and really send a message that Mason County is going to be dealing with those offenders in our county who are causing the most havoc. So there's a whole slew of options that we can talk through and figure out the best strategy.
Great.
So I'm wondering real quick, the transporting, is there a way that we can work with the city to see if we can transport on the same days? That's, saving both of us a cost. And then,
Sorry, go ahead, Commissioner. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And then also, I was wondering how Nisqually is keeping fully staffed. Is it because I know that as a county, we have higher expectations or
Standards.
yes, than they would on the res. Because just seeing their jails were different than, like, the Nisqually jail was very different from the Nisqually jail, or the Skagit. I think it was Skagit.
Yeah. So I got a couple thoughts on that. Part of the reason that they may be able to hire people is because they have a different background process. I know they definitely have different training requirements. They go through the Bureau of whatever for their training. They don't have to go to the academy like our people do. And there's requirements in the Washington State Academy for us to even get in there. And now there's requirements through Washington State for us to do a complete background investigation, just like on the road, for corrections officers. So, and I don't know that the tribes have that mandate through the federal process. I don't think they do, but
yeah, I kind of feel like they probably don't.
Yeah.
And to your first question, we have talked with Chief Beeson about the opportunity to share workload when it comes to transporting back and forth. We discussed our idea of determining 2 days a week that we would look at what's come out of the courts, what's happened over the weekend, and then who we might want to transport up for that week, be it a Tuesday or a Friday. And then Chief Beeson said that she would definitely look at the option of providing personnel so that we could send one of ours and one of hers to lessen the impact on personnel being out by doing those transports. So some sort of combination of them using their per diem contract to hold them for a couple days in our facility until our transport day, and then sharing personnel costs for doing those transports. So we have been in those conversations as well.
Okay. And then I know that there's also video.
Arraignment.
Yeah. Have we spoken to the judges to kind of get their feel for that too? I think we do that now too. So don't we, to a certain extent? Oh, I think they froze.
They sure are good looking though, huh? They're frozen.
Did Mackenzie plug a heater in over there too?
Yeah. I wonder if they can hear us.
I know that's almost like a good staff photo. Oh, I got it.
Here we go. So commissioners, since we got to have for a second, I want to remind you of something I brought up before, and I know we have HR that's going to be looking at doing more stuff for recruitment, but I still think because of the level we're at, we really need to consider going out and hiring a specific type of corporate headhunter, employment headhunter to get us those people. And we maybe need to pay to get them, but it's sure something when we're in a situation that's this dire. Just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, I think it's an issue across our entire state, probably across the entire county too,
Yeah.
as far as hiring, getting qualified people or finding even people that want to try to work. And so I don't know that, my thought, I don't know that a headhunter is going to do much, just because there's so many people that are not looking and prefer not to.
But again, because we are at this situation, it may be, even though you're right, it may not work, but it also may work. And we're in a dire situation. The numbers that we're talking now, I don't know. Like I said, I just wanted to throw it out. Even if we don't do it, I think that we definitely should be investing in it somehow, because it's a gamble that's worth paying for. Undersheriff,
Just so you know.
yeah, Undersheriff, I brought up about hiring hiring agencies, headhunters to try and do it. You do both, do exactly what you're doing. Plus we have them out there. I think it's worth the expenditure just to try. That's what that conversation was. So go ahead and go back to your discussion, please.
I don't even remember where I was now. So I remember. Also, I figured the internet kicked me off because I was talking too much. So I don't.
One of those "there's your signs" kind of moment.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much, the universe was telling me something.
Yeah. So I'll kind of share a couple of thoughts on this. One, I think we can certainly figure out how to backfill the revenue loss, from the city. I want the city to feel like they're empowered to do what's best for the city, and we'll continue to try to partner with them when and where we can. I think we can still have a productive public safety relationship with them, regardless of how much and how often they're using our jail. That being said, I also think for the reasons outlined by Undersheriff Adams and Chief Hansen that we need to have a contract in place. We tried a couple of years ago with Lewis County to do a contract for kind of emergency related outsourcing, in the event that there was even more severe staffing issue or facilities issue at our jail, to have that option, to allow for management of the inmate population and staff safety, I think is really important. And so, given the changes that Nisqually has made to some of their contract language, we'll take another review of that. But I think this is a great opportunity for us to, at a minimum, provide that relief valve in an emergency situation for our jail and Chief Hansen. But more importantly, I think we have an opportunity here. We're going through this sort of perfect storm of a variety of issues in our community, and frankly, communities across the state are struggling with it. And it's just being able to address, some of these members of the criminal community that, seem to feel like they have kind of carte blanche when it comes to their activity in our community. And so to give the road deputies the opportunity to arrest people, to give our detectives an opportunity to bring people in that they don't have the ability to do now, I think is not only a good thing for our community, but absolutely necessary given kind of the state of things. And the overlap between us and the city, I'm sure, is probably a little bit greater than most might think. And so we're all keeping the same people in mind. I'm sure that you all have kind of that running list of folks out in the community that are causing the most trouble and that would benefit from an additional avenue of accountability that they don't currently have. And so if and when that contract is ready for us to review, and if and when there's a dollar amount ready for us to weigh in on, I'm comfortable trying to find the amount that Undersheriff Adams led off with, 10 a day at $130, I think is a reasonable place to start. And then allowing your patrol deputies and their shift supervisors to triage that along with the courts and manage that population, I think is the direction that we need to go. This isn't a long-term solution to our jail issue. I mean, there's two things that need to be addressed in the mid to long range, and one is staffing first and foremost. And so, we don't want to leave any stone unturned, and we'll lean on Mary and HR and Mark to work with us on, what we can be doing, on our side of the street to support your efforts in recruitment and retention. But also the other side of that equation is, a long-term plan about the facility and what that looks like and what's reasonable and what makes sense and what our community can afford and what they're willing to pay toward it. But we don't get to that part of the conversation until we're able to address some of these issues that we have, in front of us immediately. And that's really getting after some of these chronic offenders that have been able to kind of evade consequences for their actions, get that cleaned up a little bit, give ourselves a little bit of breathing room, and be able to make some of those longer term decisions, I think is the direction. So a little bit of a long-winded way to say I support continuing to move this conversation forward. And not only that, but putting a little bit of money behind it. I see an opportunity here to treat an outsourcing program similarly to the way that we treat our traffic policing, in terms of having reporting and regular dialogue about sort of the state of the program, how the dollars are being used and to what end they're being used. And so I think over the past few years, we've done a great job at sort of repairing and rebuilding the relationship between the commission and the sheriff's office. And that's been led in large part because you've all committed to transparency and accountability with how you fund your operations. And I don't want to get in there at the street level and tell your people who and how and when and why. And so if we're able to have those higher level conversations where there's some reporting back and forth and some additional eyes on, just the program and how it's being implemented, I think we can be really successful and targeted in what we do.
If I can jump in there real quick as well. Thank you for pointing out that this is a short-term solution. We need to go down those roads of conversations for the long-term solution as well. And in the meantime, I would like to personally invite each of you commissioners to walk through our jail with me and Chief Hansen so that we can survey and see exactly what we're dealing with and with the deal with classifications and how that works. I know it's been a little while for some of you, and I don't know if all of you have actually toured the jail. I believe you have, but I would like to walk through personally with each of you and make sure that we have a mutual understanding as to what's expected if we do this contract. As far as us reaching the capacity that we have before we outsource.
I would love to. I think it's been a couple of years since I've walked through it, but I think it would be well worth my time to take another tour so that we can see what's going on.
Yeah, I would, like I said, I'd like to go through with each of you, and I know COVID has had a big impact on how we've operated the last couple of years, and we're moving on from some of those restrictions, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, excellent. I had a chance to stop in the jail, Chief, a month ago? I think at the end of September, maybe it all kind of blurs, but yeah, absolutely. I'm always more than happy to visit and continue to learn about the process and the requirements and, you know, what we can do to help be supportive for sure.
Thank you, and I'll reach out to each of you by email to see if we can set up a time.
Sounds great.
So Undersheriff, do you have enough from us today to keep the process moving forward, or is there something else that you need to hear from us today to get that process moving?
Nope, we heard exactly what we needed to hear as far as your willingness to move forward with a plan. We'll certainly honor Commissioner Netherland's request to get a hold of Forks and find out what is going on up there as far as housing and pricing and transportation, those kind of things. I've been waiting for the city's full contract with Nisqually. It's going through review with their attorneys right now. Rather than reinventing the wheel, I was just waiting for that to get finished up so that I could give a copy of that to Tim Whitehead to make sure that would be a contract that he didn't have any concern about, because he wanted to see that language from Nisqually within the context of the full contract, which we haven't done yet. And then we'll make sure that we reach out to the other stakeholders in the process to make sure that we're addressing any concerns that they may have about the people that we're outsourcing or their ability to contact them. I think those three things cover what you requested, plus we'll come back with a little more definitive plan about how we can best utilize some outsourced beds in order to impact the crime in our community, as well as being responsible to the commission with how much money we're spending and how we're doing it.
And one last little part, if you don't mind, when we're talking that we may come up due to staffing, an absolute need to do something ASAP. So although we were talking about looking at contracts, I think maybe we need to really look at having something in place. And also, if you don't mind, put together the numbers of unexpended budget authority and wages for this year that could be applied. So therefore, it wouldn't be a budget impact for the year, but it would be a stopgap you could do immediately with nothing more than just a vote of the commission to move money from wages and to maintenance and operation. Because remember, that's not a budget thing. That's literally a vote of the commission to move those funds.
Yes, no problem.
Mark, did you have a comment?
Actually, Commissioner Netherland just got it. I think it's about 400, a little over 450,000 is what we're projecting. They're going to have savings in salaries and benefits. And Chief Hansen, what is on average? What do you think you've been down all year? Six correctional officers or
Seven.
Seven
To eight. 7 to 8. A lot of the year was 8.
And obviously that impacts the capacity that you're able to hold within the jail.
Correct.
So maybe one of the things that we could talk about would be, what is that proper balance, right? So how many beds can we actually buy if we don't hire additional staff, and what does that look like moving forward? And if that's something that just from an economic standpoint, that it makes sense financially to outsource some of these things, then I'd say we should take a look at it.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thanks. We'll keep the conversation going. Fantastic. Appreciate your work on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Just a quick heads up before they leave us. I invited them and they've graciously accepted to come to our meeting on the 4th with the city of Shelton, so we can have an additional discussion with our partners down the road here and maybe get into some more details about what this looks like moving forward.
Excellent.
Yep, we look forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have support services. So Mark, I'll kick it over to you.
Thanks, Commissioner. And of course, my stuff doesn't come up. So who's first on our list?
It's me, Diane. Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
So the only item I have is to talk about the November 14th briefing. Commissioner Trask will be out of town at a conference. So I wanted to ask, is the board good with canceling this briefing?
Yeah, I don't have any issues with that. Is our intent then to have all the budget wrapped up prior to then, usually sometimes we're tacking on things kind of later in the month or leading up to our levy adoption. And so that would be the only concern I have.
Is Jen on here?
Looks like it.
Oh, there's Jen, yeah.
Yeah, I think that we should be all wrapped up by then. I would hope so. There might be, yeah, like you stated, the property tax levy, that will not be done at that point, most likely, but yeah, hopefully everything will be wrapped up.
And I have also no problem with it. The only thing that I ask is if there is anything with budget or anything like that, that we hold that for sure to make sure that the commission are all here, that we don't let one commissioner get left out in that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate that. And it's the Wasatch County Leaders Conference. So typically they have them on Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, but this year they changed it to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So
Great. Bring back good information.
always.
Thanks, Diane. John Taylor, you want to talk about our park host out at Sand Hill? Is John here?
I don't see John.
Diane, would you like to take over that one too, please?
Sure. We found out last week that Clayton does not want to continue his park host contract out at Sand Hill. So tomorrow we wanted to put the news release on the agenda so we can hopefully attract some applicants.
Has he agreed to take the other park host job? Hopefully?
No, he did not, but we did
Wow.
last week interview another person who will be moving into the Oakland Bay Park.
I just signed that contract at the end of last week, so Oakland Bay is going to be filled.
Great. Okay.
Okay. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Clayton. Appreciate Clayton's work.
Yeah,
Yes.
he did wonderful.
Yes. Thank you.
So we've got our annual lead pay review. Jen, you want to share that information with us?
Yeah, so we have the lead pay annual review and the take-home vehicles. So for lead pay, I don't believe any of these are a surprise. I think that they have all been briefed and they are all included in the budget as well. There are 7 employees, and Mary did an awesome little synopsis of all of these employees that are getting lead pay. So are there any questions or concerns, or can we move this forward?
No questions, no concerns, just a comment that if our employees are continuing these jobs, I would look to put them in a permanent position instead of them getting lead pay. But that's been my opinion since day one, so.
Any other comments or questions, commissioners? I am supportive.
Same.
Thank you. And then we have the take-home vehicle request. There are 8 take-home vehicles. And again, none of these are new take-home vehicles. They're all just continued. We're just bringing them to you annually, as is stated in the personnel policies. So we'll go ahead and move that forward as well, if you're okay with that, commissioners.
Okay, good with me, commissioners?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. So the next thing that I have is approval to set a public hearing for Tuesday, November 22nd at 9:15 a.m. to certify to the county assessor the amount of taxes levied for current expense and county road for 2023. And it is expected that this public hearing will be continued since the special purpose districts don't have to actually get their budgets and levy requests into the assessor until November 30th. So it's kind of a contradictory law that, we don't have all the information that we need to set the levy. So anyway, we would like to get approval to do this public hearing or start the public hearing for Tuesday, November 22nd, assuming that we'll be extending it after that.
Okay, good with me, commissioners?
That's good.
And the next thing, we also want to set the public hearing for Monday, December 5th at 9 a.m. to consider adoption of the 2023 budget for Mason County.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Good with me.
thank you. And then the last thing that I have is the request from the Port of Grapeview for $20,000 for 0.09 rural county sales and use tax from County Fund number 103. So last time I brought this forward informally, Tim Whitehead was going to weigh in, and he did, and he thinks that this would be an allowable expense for operations of the port boat launch and restroom areas and boat dock. And so I just wanted to bring it to you, commissioners. And I know there's concern about all the different ports that the county has and how requests might flood in. And I also wanted to let you know where we're sitting on the 2022 budget as far as approved expenditures. We have not done the transfer out to Belfair for $450,000 as of yet for 2022. We have expended $67,500 to the EDC. We've budgeted $90,000, and we haven't done the City of Shelton sewer payment. That one's $111,766, and that normally goes in December. And I still need to reach out to the city and see if we can do that payment earlier than December.
Do we have a roll up with all those encumbrances in place for ending fund balance?
I estimated the ending fund balance for 2022 or the beginning fund balance of 2023 at $1,710,000. And that will, I would think, be higher, a little higher than that, maybe closer to somewhere in the range of 1.8 to 2 million, but I haven't looked at that since July, so I can take another look.
Now, on their request, was that for ongoing or was it a one-time?
I believe it's a one-time, but that isn't extremely clear.
The Me Too's come into place a lot more if it's ongoing than a one-time expenditure.
Right. Do we have any commissioners here that might, court commissioners that might be able to answer that?
Yes, I can.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, Commissioner Trask. This is a one-time expense. And ask. Thank you.
Good to know. Thank you.
I'd be very supportive of it. That is what the fund is for. We have the monies in there. It's a small ask. They're definitely not trying to break the bank. They're asking for what they need instead of, all they could maybe get. And I respect that. So I hope we would go forward with that small amount stipend for them.
Yep, I would support that as well.
Yeah, same here. And I think too, this is the first time, at least in my time on the commission, that we've been able to actually use this money to grant out beyond what we have traditionally done. And so I mean, it's all dependent upon the health of that fund. And of course, we want the legislature to extend the sunset on it, beyond the, I think, 2032, 2034 timeframe. But, while we have the ability to do this, I think this is a really good ask, and I'm supportive of it as well.
Okay, great. Then we will move that forward. So the Port of Grapeview, do they, and Mark, this is a question for you, do they need to fill out the actual application like the EDC did?
Yes, I would like it if they could. Can we send them a copy of that?
Of course.
If I'm not mistaken, when we expend funds, we also have to let others know for comment, right?
Yeah, that's what we did with the EDC, and that's why the Port of Grapeview, I'm assuming why they responded with an ask.
But I'm pretty sure it's
So then we
mandatory.
need to do it again?
Yeah.
Oh, that works. Okay.
I think even if it isn't mandatory, I think since we are changing, it would probably be a good practice. And like I said, we just really haven't had to do this before. So I'd rather err on the side of more notice and caution than not.
Okay, great. Then I will give them the application, and we'll get the comment period going. And then tomorrow, the EDC will be on for approval on tomorrow's action agenda. So great, that is all that I have, I believe. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. All right, Mary, you're up for personnel policy amendments.
Morning, commissioners. I wanted to put forth a draft, emphasizing draft, personnel policy updates for an initial review by the board, and any feedback that you have. Just kind of a high level of updates, including updated language, making sure we have best practices incorporated, clarification of what we're currently doing versus what is in the personnel policy. Specific updates to policy 3.1 recruiting. We need to comply with the new RCW 4958-110 and make sure that we're including compensation and benefits, which starts January 1st of next year. That goes into effect. Addition of policy 8.24 place safety under legal review, and then policy 8.13 drug-free workplace also under legal review. And there is some, I'll say, concern coming from a couple of the labor groups around policy 8.13. So we'll be working through some of that as well. We just want to make sure that we're following some guidance we've received from the risk pool around the new chapter 8 policies. And so we'll try to work through those. I will bringing this back after any feedback that you have and we've incorporated, or I can answer any questions that you have. I know it's a very messy, long, scary, redlined document. So I apologize for a lot of reading. But if you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer them.
It wasn't boring reading.
No, I think this is on the right track. I think these are good updates. Of course, wait to see what kind of comes out of the legal review, of course. But I think this is a lot of cleanup. This has been a long time coming to kind of just sort of go through the entire personnel policy and make those changes, incorporating best practices. And of course, when there's RCW changes, that's always a good time to crack it back open and do that. So I think it's on the right track.
I also agree and appreciate your work on this. Thank you.
Want to jump into your lead pay request?
Yes. So I also have a request for lead pay approval outside of our annual review. This is a separate request coming from Superior Court to take place October 1 through March 31 for Rochelle Osmond. She's being tasked with managing a new project around protection order statutes. It's quite a different scope of body of work that includes managing and monitoring docket workloads, making recommendations, really making collaborative partnerships and leading a lot of discussions, research, and then a lot of communication with stakeholders as needed to comply with the RCW. the court has indicated this would be a general fund supplement, and it would just be, like I said, from October through March of next year.
Fine with me, commissioners?
Yep, I support.
Great.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate having Mary here, going through all these personnel policies and kind of getting them current with current law and all the changes that have occurred and putting processes in place where we're evaluating these things, utilizing some standard, I think is super beneficial and love to see the results as we move forward. I'm going to share my screen with you guys here. So I should be presenting.
Yep, looks good.
Do you see the draft agenda?
Yep.
Oh, good. So on November 4th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. out at the Ridge Motorsports Park, our commissioners and Shelton City Council are going to get together. It's kind of a follow-up meeting for our meeting that we had initially earlier in the year. I've been working with Jeff Knighton on some agenda items. As we discussed this morning, we did want to talk a little bit about impacts to the jail and how is this going to work for the city, as well as maybe we can share some options for the county too. City is very interested. The city council members are very interested on what our plans are for the property out on Highway 101 and 102. That's the Public Works Drive property that's been on the market, and we've talked a little bit about how we wanted to move forward with that. I think that discussion is part of, it kind of goes into their annexation topics too, because the city's definitely looking at continuing to expand their sewer utility out in that area, and is interested in how development will occur there. They did want to talk a little bit about opportunities to collaborate on the comprehensive plan updates that are coming up. So I think we're due in 2025, but that process starts. Share a lot of information, and if we could actually utilize similar consultants to kind of help us, I think that we can get some economy of scale there. So would love to have that conversation. I've invited Kell to come, and I believe the city's bringing their new planner. I believe his name is Jay. And so Kell and Jay have been discussing about how they could possibly do that. Wanted to talk to both our governing bodies to kind of give you an update on what that looks like as we move forward. The city is going to give us some updates on their annexation plans and progress that they've made there, and kind of what are their next steps. They're talking a little bit about the sewer capacity out at their satellite treatment plant and how that's going to work in the future. Kind of what their plans are for how they're going to expand that site, because I think eventually they'd like to move all of their sewer treatment out to that area. And then they could actually potentially expand some of the services that they provide in treating sewage from other areas too. So be interesting to see what they're going to do there. And then we also brought on, and I invited Dave Wyndham to come to talk about the last topic, which is the designated crisis responders. I know this is a topic that has been up, and there's been discussions throughout the community on whether we're supportive of it or not. We are supportive of it. Commissioner Trask and I had the opportunity to sit down with Dave last week and talk a little bit about what the city's planning on doing with their specifically their homeless individuals experiencing homelessness, and how they'd like to move forward on that. But I think that getting together and working on creating opportunities to bring in a designated crisis responder and some of the benefits that would provide our community is a good discussion to have, and how do we share some of those responsibilities. So that's what I had for a draft agenda. So if you guys would like to add anything, or do you have concerns about anything on the list?
No concerns. I think this is a good agenda. Just on the designated crisis responder, I wasn't a part of the task force, of course, of the city, but one of the conversations that I've been having with folks has been I think the sort of the moniker designated crisis responder is sort of used, I think, as a catch-all, much in the way that we use the term Kleenex when we mean tissue, and you know, kind of use the brand name, you know, as a catch-all term for all tissues. You know, so I'm really interested in that conversation because I want to, you know, typically when a designated crisis responder is involved, it's for the purposes of involuntarily committing someone for treatment, a court-ordered treatment. And so I just want to make sure that we're using the right terminology for the programming that we want. And, you know, maybe it is the city's, you know, the city is interested in having a lot of folks involuntarily committed, and you know, I want to hear more about that. But that versus a co-responder model, which is a sort of an embedded crisis clinician and peer with the PD, you know, I think is maybe more appropriate, but I'm certainly interested in hearing a little bit more discussion. If they have any sort of supporting documentation that they want to provide, I'd love to take a look at that.
That's great. And like I said, I've invited Dave Wyndham to come and help that discussion take place, so we can kind of define it. And it sounds like it is maybe it's the word of the week, right? Everybody's talking about trying to get designated crisis responders available. I do know that we've had some challenge from conversations with Dave. We've had some challenges in finding individuals to help with some of those evaluations, and individuals that are suffering from a mental health crisis, having additional resources to provide guidance and direction to our employees that are dealing with those individuals, I think would be beneficial. So however we want to label it, I'm comfortable with that, but I think that having the conversation with the city is a good thing to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree with that. If they had any additional documentation to go along with the recommendations of the task force, it'd be great to have that ahead of the meeting so that we all can be prepared to discuss everything.
The city has applied for a grant, so I will get that information for you, Commissioner Schutte, and you can kind of see what their plan is.
Great.
Any other comments? Any other topics that you don't see on there that you would have liked to see on there?
No, I think this is great. There are issues that we've talked about frequently anyway, so I think bringing them up and getting them out on the table, so to speak, is a good direction. I love that we're having these city county meetings. I think it's well, it was the first one we had was amazing. And now being able to move forward and building that relationship with the city, I think is just fantastic.
Great. I agree. Really enjoyed working with Jeff, and I think that we can continue to foster that relationship and work together on some of these things. And then we're working with each other instead of getting in the way. So I'm excited.
It's not a competition, right?
Not a competition. No. So that's all I had for you for support services. Kell, are looking for you. Are you here?
We still had commissioner discussion.
Yeah, do we want to do that now, or do we want to?
I can hold off.
Okay. Yeah, I have a couple of items as well. So
Well, why don't you guys do your commissioner discussion, and I'll give Kell a call and get her on.
okay, Commissioner.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this, I guess, more for Mary. So I actually just got pinged here last week with a reminder about the public service student loan forgiveness program. I think that's up at the end of the month. This is separate from the student loan forgiveness program that President Biden is did through executive order. This is separate from that, but there's a window for application for folks that are in public service jobs that can get a certain amount of their student loans forgiven. I was just wondering if we could push some of that information out. I don't know how many people here would apply to, but it might be an avenue for people who are looking for relief.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, thanks. And then Mark, just wanted an update where we were with our legislative priorities and No, he's on the phone.
Sorry, I was right in the middle of a phone conversation, but could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, so just wondering if you could update us on where we were with getting some legislative priorities in front of us to kind of firm that up. I know the election's right around the corner, and so want to be able to get information into our delegation's hands as soon as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got scheduled for the October, Deb Mingia is going to come in and present to the board what she sees as kind of on the legislative list of things to look at. And she will be coming on the Monday, the 30th or 31st, excuse me. So 31st is where we'll have that discussion. I have a list I can provide to each one of the commissioners of the items that I've gathered from our departments and offices. A lot of times our individually elected officials have their own kind of resources available to them where they work with other counties. So the sheriffs, deputies, they kind of work together with other counties to address topics or issues that are impacting them. As well as our other separately elected officials. Not received anything from them yet, but definitely would be interested if they had items that they wanted the commissioners to support. And if they'd like to utilize some of the services of Deb, she would definitely be available for that. So 31st.
And then I don't see Dave has a briefing scheduled with us today, so I'll ask you. But I got a text on Friday from Ray Peters asking about some updates on the MOA. And so if you or Dave can run that down, and seem like
they're actually in communication with the Squaxin tribe right now. So I have been in a few emails going back and forth for the revisions that we are suggesting.
Oh, okay. So because of the way Ray made it sound was they hadn't heard anything. And so I just want to make sure that we're it may not just trickle up to Ray. So just as long as we're communicating at all levels.
I think that's the case, Commissioner Schutte. It's I believe that Dave has been in conversations with Erica.
Okay. Great. That's all I had. Commissioner Manuel?
Yeah, just two parts. Commissioner Schutte, remember we went for a walk out in that park and we had talked about a fire pit and what that may look like. The person was putting something together and I was wondering if you wouldn't mind supplying a proper name, perhaps favorite animal or tree, maybe a word, something just for him to put together the drawing or the conceptual idea of it for you and the rest of the commission to look at.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
So anything you could share would be appreciated.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because you're the one that would do it. And just one more thing, I wanted to touch back on the idea of hiring people in order to find employees for these positions that are so critical. I've never been a fan of the spaghetti theory of throwing spaghetti on the wall, seeing what sticks. I've disagreed with it my whole career doing this, but at some point, I'm really worried that we are at critical mass. We keep being told we're that close to it. And if we don't start doing something, throwing spaghetti on the wall, doing everything we can to try and get these people, we will end up probably in trouble unless we get lucky. So I just wanted to throw that out there for you to consider. We're not hurting anybody by doing stuff like that. They don't have to be one over the top of the other. I think it's a little bit of everything and let all opportunities be utilized before we crash. That's all I had.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. I don't disagree with that at all. I think it's a great idea. I just want to make sure that the folks that we use, like for law enforcement or other specialties, that we make sure that the other departments are consulted so that we go hand in hand and not leaving anybody out of the conversation.
Yeah, I would be interested in seeing what something like that would look like. maybe even apply it a little bit more broadly than just the corrections, because we have a lot of vacancies that would like to get filled, I think. And I think to maybe Commissioner Trask's point, I know that they have a corrections deputy who has been doing recruitment and going out to different job fairs and things like that. And so I think, to the extent we can coordinate those efforts and provide additional support, I think that would be another, avenue to start as well. So I'm open to anything. I mean, I just think, filling these positions is really important. And I wouldn't want to not evaluate something and that might work for us. So, but I'll lean on, like I said, I'll lean on Mary and Mark to kind of give us some options and see what might fit.
Yes, Mary has some great ideas. And part of it is the GovQA that we discussed during budget. Streamlining our processes and kind of bringing Mason County's recruitment up to the 21st century, and making it easier for individuals to apply, right? I mean, we shouldn't make an individual print out a piece of paper, handwrite information, and then mail it to us through snail mail. So, oh, Mary's here. Did you have anything you wanted to add there, Mary?
No, and I think you were referring to NeoGov.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so that'll be, I do think, a really great tool, but I have been leaning on some of our neighboring counties for resources, and we've been invited to participate in different job fairs up at JBLM, at their TAP events by Pierce County. And my team has spent some time with their recruitment staff and are learning some tricks of the trade. So that'll be really helpful and exciting as well. And which events should we be at? Because everybody's having the same recruitment issues with corrections.
I think that's awesome that you're reaching out to other counties. I mean, they're our neighbors. We may not have all the answers, but we do have resources.
Sometimes there are competitors, but at least they are willing to share with us, and having those relationships that Mary has, I think, is going to definitely benefit the county.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other discussion, commissioners? Okay, all right.
So we are ready to move on to community services, or it's actually Marissa is going to be presenting. So,
hey, Marissa.
Good morning, commissioners. I actually have 2 items for you, and I was going to start with the Title 17 zoning code amendments. The planning department has been reviewing our Title 17 zoning code, specifically the rural lands development regulations, Allen UGA code and the Belfair UGA code, and the Shelton UGA code, though we didn't make any recommendations for any changes within that section yet. So we did, in a broad overview, we looked at the code because it really hasn't had a general update. It's been updated in like small sections here and there, but it hasn't really been looked at together in a larger review to kind of look at what code is still remaining in our Title 17 that's obsolete or that needs clarifications, or may contradict newer sections of the code, and those sections might still be kind of hidden in there. So we just did a broad overview of the code, looking for those problems, as well as making some recommendations for code language changes based on the changing nature of development within the county. The PAC had 3 workshops looking at these revisions, and then they had a public hearing at their October 17th meeting, and they recommended to pass these changes on to you for review and approval, hopefully. We also had to make a few minor revisions to Title 8.52 because of the revisions of Title 17, moving some language from Title 17 over to Title 8. And then I would say probably our biggest change to Title 17 would be language in regard to development requirements and connection to a Group A public water system required when development is within the UGA. So we have language in there regarding that. As that language, though also includes some stipulations, some criteria that may allow people to still develop with an individual well or to a Group B, but they have to go through a process with the Group A service provider to prove that there's some kind of infeasibility to hooking up. So I would say that was probably one of the major changes in the revisions. But staff is hoping that we can get these changes on the action agenda on November 8th for a possible public hearing on December 20th. And if you have any questions, I can go ahead and send it over to you guys.
Thanks, Carissa. Just one quick question. So when you were reviewing the Title 17 with, it mentions in the briefing document that the Shelton UGA code was reviewed and there are no recommended changes at this time. Did you have an opportunity to work at all with the city on that? And the reason I ask is, I know in a lot of our previous council commission meetings, we talk about parity between our development codes and theirs in the UGA, and just wondering if they were involved in this process at all, or if there were areas where you felt like there might be some opportunity to sync up ours with theirs and vice versa.
We did talk to them about the requirements to hook up to a Group A system. So we are trying to get in sync with their code in that respect. I think, I believe Kell was mentioning she had some talks with the planner from the city of Shelton just recently and talking about syncing up our comprehensive plan updates. And we did mention looking at the Shelton UGA code in more depth during that process and seeing how we can sync it up better during that process.
Great. No, I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments?
No, I'm good.
Just looking at it all over, there's quite a bit in here. I may have some questions, but we're good for now. Thank you.
Okay. So good to move forward with setting a hearing for December 20th at our November 8th meeting. All good?
Yep.
Yeah, she said to put it on the action agenda. That was a little confused by that. Put on the action agenda to set the meeting, to set the hearing?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, perfect. All good on that, Marissa.
Okay, and then the second one is the BOCC. I know a couple of topics that were important to them were impact fees and looking at short-term rentals. And so we took those two topics back to the PAC for them to decide which one they wanted to work on first. And because we are working on the capital facilities plan, doing a larger update to that, and the fact that impact fees have to be incorporated into our CFP, as well as any projects have to be incorporated as well. They decided that it would be prudent to do that concurrently with the CFP. So I went forward with that research looking into impact fees for transportation, school districts, and fire districts. And in that initial research, there are some things that we kind of need to discuss because it doesn't make much sense to go ahead and draft an impact fee ordinance without having rate studies in the works, at least. And that would require having someone, put all that work together, as well as communicating with the school districts that want to be involved, the fire districts, and public works, of course. But it's very important to have that rate study done. The RCW requires some kind of calculation or formula to be included, and that formula has to, that method of calculation has to include several different things, as you see in your staff report I provided. So that's a very important step we need to think about. And of course, there would be a budget, there would be a cost impact to that as well. And I know that some counties do it differently. Sometimes, they pay for it themselves, or else sometimes the fire districts, the regional fire district pays for their own impact study. The school districts pay for their own impact study as well. But I think it's a discussion we need to have before going forward with the impact fee ordinance. I mean, if it's something we really want to do, if you guys really want to do.
I do know that I've had discussions over the last few years. I'm hoping we're moving forward with something for the schools. I don't know how much is necessary for the impact studies. There was a discussion between developers and the schools, and there was a certain amount that they had talked about. As long as it's realistic, I stood against it at different times because they've always tried to go too far. But if they're staying within the reality, then I'm very much interested, especially if we do like we did before, where we put it on the certificate of occupancy, so that when they collect the funds when the property is sold, basically. That takes all the most of the weight off of the developer, and everybody still gets their money. But I don't know. I think that one at the bare minimum needs to move forward.
I'd like to see what the planning commission comes back with, but I think it's definitely a topic that we need to move forward as well.
I think as recently as a couple of years ago, the fire chiefs were interested in funding their own rate study. And if they've done that, they may have completed it, and I don't know about it. But it might be worthwhile checking in with Chief Bakken at North Mason Fire. I think he's still chairing the Chiefs Association, but that might be something that they're interested in still partnering on if they haven't already completed their own study. That would help move that part of it along. And same with the school districts. I mean, if we think that a rate study is necessary to move a plan forward, then I wouldn't want to waste much time in pulling in partners to help with that. If there is still an interest from all of them, I guess I would be looking to Marissa, you and Kell to come back to us with, what a process would look like, ideally, and is it something that we can do unilaterally on our own? Do we need to do the rate study with these partners? But I want to honor Commissioner Netherland's interest in having this process move forward. But just kind of want to see if we can get some partners on board with it so that we don't have to do this completely on our own if we don't have to.
I mean, it's definitely important to have a conversation with the school districts, because not all of them may want to be involved in it, and some of them might not even qualify, depending on if they already can meet capacity within their districts. So it's definitely a good idea to get them in on the conversation early.
Qualification, that's an interesting concept. It doesn't necessarily, from what I understand, have to have a specific qualification, because it's also covering what may come in the future, and the use of portables originally with that. But the idea of having people come together at a table is always best, but having a framework, a straw dog to work with, is the smartest way to go about it, since there's already been discussions on it, and it may keep it from getting out of hand. Like certain counties have really gone to the extreme because they can. Mason County's never been one of those we take all we can get. I hope we never will be, but we only take what's needed or necessary, and I hope we stay there. Marissa, well, I'm going to wait till it's done, but I got a question before you leave regarding the same issue.
And then I guess the only other, it's more of a comment than a question, I guess, is not wanting to lose sight of the importance of doing a hard look at our short-term rental situation in the county. I know that the PAC has prioritized the impact fee discussion, but I don't want to lose sight of the value of looking at policies around short-term rentals in our county. housing needs assessment that is being completed, that we were presented on at Board of Health a couple of weeks ago, indicated that as much as a quarter of our housing in this county is used as a secondary or a short-term rental vacation property. That's a staggering amount, and that has an effect on our real estate market and the affordability, of homes. And so, certainly want to see people recreate here. Certainly want to be able to, come here and enjoy all that Mason County has to offer. But at the same time, there are impacts of, those houses being used in that way. There are impacts that people from out of the area utilizing those houses, in particular on water quality and the septics and things like that I think we need to be really mindful of. And so I understand that the PAC prioritized this over that, but I don't want us to lose sight of the value of doing, a short-term rental policy process as well. I think that's really critical. I know it's something that I hear about quite a bit from my constituents. And so I'd like us to find a way to walk and chew gum at the same time when we can on this issue, especially if this is going to take a little bit more time than we initially thought. This isn't going to be a quick or easy process to institute impact fees. So if there's a way that we can get things working on a concurrent track, that might be really good for us too.
Just real quick, the HOA meetings or the meeting that I went to with HOAs, some of those HOAs already have systems in place. So it might be a good idea just to reach out to some of them so that we can see what they have.
Yeah, they can put it on their covenants and consider it a business and a cottage industry and restrict it. But for us, I want to concur with something Commissioner Schutte was just talking about on that. There's a couple ways we can do it. We can build it through our planning committee, or we can do something based on that structure that Straw Dog you put out there. I think it was Commissioner Schutte, you put something out that we look at that and try to streamline that through staff, bring it back to the commission, and after we get to where we like it, then send it to the planning commission for review. So there's other ways that we can do this, and I think we should do that, because just like Commissioner Schutte said, I hear about it a lot, but I also think that we need as a county to be working on looking at other types of regulations, such as how many people per septic. We have so many other things. It's not just these guys, these people will go in there and they'll have 30 people on a 2-bedroom septic, party and having fun. But we also have households that are doing the same thing. And we need to have some type of tool to stop that or to combat that. And so I think it's a couple different prongs, but I do think we can do it staff-wide first, simplify it out, and then send it to the PAC. They can do it in a day or part of their meeting if they're already going over what the commission already liked.
Yeah, thank you. And I, to add on to that and what Commissioner Trask had said, there are other counties that already have, regulations that have been adopted in Chelan and San Juan County as two examples. And so we don't need to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. We can take a look at what they have and see if there are things that, see if there are things that are in there that might work for Mason County. And I'll speak for myself. I'm happy to take that work on in this kind of a setting. If
I'm supportive of that.
Where we don't have to, where we can evaluate those and share with staff things that we like or don't like, and maybe try to build a policy that way, so that we're sharing in some of the work, that it's not just all of you having to do it. But it might take a little bit longer, but I think it's worthwhile starting on.
Commissioner Schutte, as a fellow alumni of the Planning Commission, I think you would be a good person to take that on if you're willing to do it. I ask that you please also send us a copy of each of those, because there may be parts that we like in the other ones as commissioners that we want to, at least we know it's out there, so we can make a recommendation when it comes down. But I think putting it on one person to put together is a smart move on our part, because it may actually get done.
Yeah, thanks for stepping up and volunteering.
Yeah, agreed.
I didn't see it going in that direction, but that's okay. I think happy to do it.
But again, just please share those other ones with us as you're going through them, because there may be a couple of gems that we like. But I think sooner rather than later for all of us this is something the whole county's been asking us for. There are some people profiting off it, yes, and I appreciate that. But when there's 30 in a 2-bedroom septic, or you got a neighbor that thought they moved into a rural area, expected to be rural, and all of a sudden you've got an urban event next door on a regular basis, no less, every weekend, or it's something that has to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, and then the other thing I would add to that too is, in some conversation with some of our fish and wildlife officers, the amount of work that they have to do on poaching and different activities like that on the shoreline, and it's just people come in and they're not I don't necessarily think they're being purposely disrespectful, but I think their attitudes are not always in line with what our expectations are, and so I think there's also that part of it as well. So it's tough.
I heard one say, I paid $1,200 for this for the weekend. I'm entitled to those oysters on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I can eat. That's it. So okay. So
do you have anything else, Commissioner, that you want
to? I wanted to ask oh, go ahead, Commissioner Trask. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I didn't say anything.
Oh, regarding the impact fees and stuff, I've had contact with the school districts and some of the developers. When they're doing a large project, they make agreements with the school district that they will pay a certain fee amount for the development. But I'm being told right now that several of these developers are not paying them anything, even though they've agreed to. What is the options that we have to help them to get those fees? And you don't have to have the answer today, but I'm asking you so that you could look into that and get back to me, and I can help them get where they need to get, because some of these developments are huge and the impact is going to be huge, and to get nothing and being told they're not going to right now, that's.
Yeah. Hi, Commissioner. This is Kell. So I'm not sure what specific developments you're talking about, but some of the newer ones up in Belfair, there have been agreements made, and our building department is working with them on ensuring that fees, any agreed upon fees to school districts or otherwise, are made prior to final occupancy.
Okay, so you are on that, and you're doing it through final occupancy, as we had talked about some of the other stuff. And so my answer to them is they won't get final occupancy until that's paid. So they may not have it today, but they will get it before it's over, because our crew is on that and using that.
Yeah. So if you are aware of development that's occurring and getting final occupancies without those agreed upon fees being made, can you please reach out to me directly, and I
will double check all that and go through that. Maybe they didn't get to that point yet. So that if you're on it and you're the one watching it, that's all I needed to know. But I'll explain that to them. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, Commissioners, anything else for Marissa or Kell? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Public Works. Loretta.
Morning.
Morning.
Mike has a list of bridges to update for you this morning, Commissioners.
Ready? Okay. All we're doing is updating the resolution. We're adding Lower DeWatto Creek Bridge. If you know where that bridge is, it's on DeWatto Holly Road with DeWatto Creek underneath it, and goes to DeWatto Bay and through DeWatto. So this bridge does not have any bridge plans, and so we've had Sergeant Engineers do an administrative weight restriction. So they basically are saying that it's been here, it's been holding regular traffic, and they just want to restrict it for no overloads. So that's what we want to add to the resolution.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, good on my end too.
Thank you.
Mike, is Ike Bridge also a new addition?
No, that was on there previously.
Okay, okay. All right, good enough. And next up, commissioners, during our budget briefing, we talked about the potential to add another solid waste position. And Richard has a budget impact and justification to present.
Morning, commissioners.
Morning.
Okay, so here we are, requesting approval to add and hire a new FTE as solid waste attendant 2. And this is to bolster our staffing, as you are acutely aware of. We've had some issues with having to close down some of our stations at last minute, mostly due to staffing issues, dealing with vacations and sick leave. And we want to not have that happen anymore. We want to increase our level of service. We want to open some of our stations more. So we're asking for this. We can afford it. We've had an increase in our tonnage. Our staff has been performing very well and saving us money on our hauling fees. So we've got a 34% increase in tonnage alone this year so far, compared to historical 6.7% this year compared to last year alone. It's tough. It's tough. We're dealing with a lot, and if we could get this extra person, it would sure help out a lot. We're hoping that it would spread things out a little bit more. Our plan is to actually open Shelton 7 days a week and Belfair 6 days a week initially. And that's just going to hopefully bring in more revenue and keep the area cleaner. So our budget impact, $71,000 is what we're estimating for 2023. And that's based on the current wages and approximately $10,000 to finish out this year if they start December 1st. Hoping to get approval. Do you have any questions? Please
Did Loretta tell you that the commission already moved it over to maintenance? And actually, Commissioner Schutte requested that it come up today so that we can move it forward sooner rather than later. So
you guys are more excited than I am.
Loretta needs to keep you in the loop on that one. So Commissioner Schutte, I agree.
We were just following process, Commissioner, putting pen to paper. So there's some documentation.
Yep, still supportive. I think whatever we need to do to start kind of turning the tide here, supportive of. So I think this is a great step forward.
Yeah,
Awesome.
super supportive and super excited.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. And then the last item that we have for you today, commissioners, is a request to approve a grant with Commerce, a CDBG grant. And this is to extend water to the Evergreen Estates Co-op. And we have a draft grant. I did hear from the grant project manager this morning that she will have the full agreement to us today. So once we receive that, we'll forward over to Tim and Nicole for their review. And with your approval, we'll bring this forward as an action item for the 8th of November.
Excellent. This is really fantastic news. So definitely supportive of it. I know there's a lot of great partners on this, including the city and Squaxin Island Tribe. And this was one of the projects that we were talking about in our RIA 14 group. And so to see that there's some funding that we could put toward this is just really exciting. And more pipes in the ground is a good thing. And so definitely supportive.
Great.
Yeah, same. That's exciting.
Hopefully we get credit for the water.
Yes.
There will definitely be a huge improvement on the health front. So we're excited to get this moving forward as well. All right. Thank you, commissioners. We'll have that for action on the 8th.
Great.
And that is it on our front.
Okay, commissioners, anything for Loretta and team?
Guys gearing up for the weather that's coming?
We are definitely in transition mode and taking a look at snow routes, making sure that we've got the school snow routes, doing some coordination there. Yeah, getting ready.
They say it's supposed to be a very wet year, so here we go again.
Yes, here we go again. Actually, we're pretty excited to see the crew's done a tremendous amount of work up on the Tahuya Peninsula this summer. And we're excited to see some water and test out what's happened up there.
Yeah, you guys have been incredibly busy just looking at the projects that you guys have going. You guys are doing a great job, so please pass on appreciation.
Yeah, will do. And then our contractor just finished up the paving on Mason Lake. And so we've got lots of black out there on the ground, and our crew was out putting the delineators on Friday. So we've got a little bit of shoulder work there, but that's wrapped up also just in time. We really stretched the season this year, and hats off to Mike and his team and making sure that happened, that we're getting the most out of all of our days of work.
You know, this project they had on 106 has given me the opportunity to save us a lot of heartache in the future. So many people were so upset about it, calling me. I had the benefit of being able to say, not my barbecue, and why it's beneficial and how good it is and what it does. So when we're doing ours, it's going to be a little easier to explain, because I cannot believe how many people contact me still. Just this weekend, I had 2 people come up to me, and they're not even doing anything anymore, but it gives us an opportunity to explain a whole lot of why. And if they understand it with the state doing it, and if they don't, again, it's not my barbecue. So.
Yep. And then, yeah, I know that Justin and Richard have been talking about the pressure relief valve, but that's scheduled to happen this week, tomorrow, I believe, out at Russellwood. So excited to get that going also.
Loretta, a couple of weeks ago, we received an application for TipCap from Blair Sherman. And I think we had asked about interviewing him. And
I thought we agreed not to, that we're just going to take him.
Oh, really?
That's what I remember, that we all.
Okay. No, I'm glad I brought it up, because I'm fine if that's the decision. I couldn't recall, and I didn't see anything come back, and so I just wanted to follow up on it. So
I'm very glad you followed up, because Mike and I were confused about that. I think we had made a call downtown to see who was on first for setting up interviews, and we must have misunderstood the response about no interview. We thought it was, we're waiting for others to interview, as opposed to, no, we're just going to accept this individual and appoint them.
I thought we were in dire need of getting bodies on there. We all knew them.
Yeah.
And, respected him, is the way I took it, and said, bring them in.
Okay, well, perfect. We will do that.
okay, yeah. No, I'm happy to
Thank
follow
you.
Commissioner Miller on that. I'm glad we brought it up.
Yeah,
Very cool.
absolutely. Mike and I were just putting together a list of TipCap referral items, so we will gladly get them back to work.
Awesome.
Great. That's all I had.
Okay. All right, well, with that, I'll sign off. Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks, Loretta. All right, commissioners, that is all we have on the agenda. Anything else for discussion? We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries, and we will see everyone tomorrow morning.
Have a good one.
Aye.
Yeah.